What's up, guys? It's Sode back with you for Monday, April 21st. It is Marathon Monday, which I'll talk about the marathon briefly because fuck it. I mean, I'm from Boston, so I talk about it. I've bet on it in the past. I actually won money on it 2 years ago because 2 years ago, I don't even remember the guy's names. Well, I do remember the guy who won, so I'll talk about him in a minute. But because he is running again. But the guy that was the favorite 2 years ago had like never run the Boston Marathon before, so it was like obvious he had to fade that guy. He was like a really heavy favorite. It was crazy, and it's like the Boston Marathon is different than any other marathon, man, because you don't know what the weather's going to be like. Although I think the weather's fine today, but it's like very hilly. There's Heartbreak Hill, and if you like tax yourself too early, you're dead by the end. And that's the thing. Good segue into today. Although of course the marathon has already started. I think probably the winners have already finished, so I don't even know who won yet. But I was just going to talk about it briefly. After I lost last year, I thought I had the edge last year, and last year Cisse Lemma came from out of nowhere and won the whole thing. Even though he's a guy who had run it before, but he had real problems running it in the past. And I don't even think he ran it in the right way last year either. Like he taxed himself way too early, like I was just saying, but he got himself such a lead that nobody could catch up by then. And I don't think that he would be able to do that again. Of course, I'm saying this after the marathon is decided, probably. So I don't even know who won, but I would be going against him this time at plus 275. I think he's being way like overpriced into the market there. The guy who won it the previous year and the year before that is Evans Chebet, plus 175. I mean, probably a reasonable price on him. He's getting old though. He's like in his mid to late 30s now. So even though he has won multiple Boston marathons, and I think he is still motivated to get back and do it again after not winning it last year. So it makes sense. And then the guy that I was probably going to actually be looking to would have been John Career. Speaking of his career, I think he's a guy that's shown like a ton of improvement race to race. So I was going to be looking at that guy for the most part. And then I don't really know about Kotut or Kotut and Alu. I don't even know who Alu is. Kotut. I think has run the Boston Marathon multiple times in the past. I think maybe actually won one a while back. I'm not even sure. But I think Career was the guy that was showing like the best trajectory. So I guess would be it was either going to be him or Chebet, but I don't really know, man. So there wasn't like a clear answer for me this time. Like last year, I thought there was, and I still got it wrong. So this year, I did not bet on the marathon. I just passed on it, but I was just figuring I would talk about just to bore everybody at the beginning of this before I talk about the major sports that are going on today with a small card on a Monday. So hopefully this is going to be a quick video. And by the way, Career also has a brother who is a marathon runner, like a very experienced one, and like his brother knows the Boston track as well. So just figured I would throw that out there. We'll see who actually winds up winning that. Let's go to today, man. Let's start with NBA. I mean, there are two NBA games today, and with the NBA, when we have games two in series, you know, I start looking for the zigzag, man. So it's basically you look at game one. Game two is like the biggest zigzag game. Game one, what happened in game one? And was it some sort of outlier, like weird result on either the side or the total, such that the books had to adjust the number in that direction a little bit, and you can now get value fading what happened in that result. So say the Knicks won in a total blowout, which I know they won and covered, but I would not say that they won in a blowout in that game. But say they had, and then the line was now, instead of being 7.5 or whatever it was on the Knicks the next time, it was like 8 or 8.5 because they looked so good in that previous game. Then the zigzag would say to take the Pistons plus the extra value and thinking they're going to be the team to adjust to what happened in the previous game. Now, what we have here, I don't think that we want to do that here. The Knicks are actually laying 6.5 juiced, so basically 7. So the line really hasn't moved that much. 60% of tickets, 66% of the cash. So the money actually seems like it's on the side of the Knicks a little bit right now. Total down from 221.5 to 220. So some movement on the under as well. 67% of tickets, only 55% of the cash on the over. The game did, I believe, go over this total in the previous game too. I think it was pretty high scoring, right? Let me see. So the Knicks, it was quite high scoring. It went over the 220 total. So now the total is actually right around the same as well. So you could argue that the zigzag does say to take the under here because the first game was kind of abnormally high scoring, but I don't want to do that either because I think that game 2 tends to be a little bit higher scoring than game 1 typically because it's a short turnaround time. So whereas game 1, you have like defenses that are rested so they can play more intensely. Game 2, they're less rested. So a lot of times you see less intense defense in game 2. So I'm going to stay off the total here and I'm going to stay off the side as well. What happened in the first game is that the Pistons were winning that game, man, for a lot of the game. They were winning with 9 minutes left in the game, I think, and then they didn't score for like a 5-minute period, and they wound up losing the game because of that. So it was a game that looks like the Pistons should have covered that game. And the Pistons may be able to make adjustments and have a better game this time as well, even though they played well in the last game too. So debatably, the Knicks are going to adjust so they don't fall behind for most of the game like they did in the first game. So I could see that going either way. Maybe the Knicks side of it is a little bit stronger because they maybe got scared into a little bit of focus after that last game. But the Pistons have played the Knicks well during the season, man. As I pointed out before, Pistons won the last 3 games against the Knicks prior to game 1 of this series. So they are actually pretty competitive against the Knicks. Even though the Knicks obviously have the experience edge. Clippers, Nuggets. Clippers have flipped from a 2-point dog to a 1.5-point favorite. Even though I probably agree with the Clippers side here, I don't think you can lay a favorite price on the road with the Clippers, even though it is basically a pick the winner situation. The Clippers actually covered in game 1 and didn't win. So that number actually mattered. I liked the Clippers in game 1. And the Clippers were winning almost the whole game, or they were winning at least throughout the first half. They had a big lead in the first half, and they completely blew the lead. So kind of crazy. And they wound up losing in overtime, but they still covered. If you got the plus 3.5, 3, 2.5, they covered all of them because they only lost by 2. So now they're laying 1.5 on the road. That's the books adjusting kind of for the zigzag aspect of it, thinking the Clippers are going to adjust after losing game 1. Although they did not lose in a blowout. And just like with the Pistons, the Clippers had the lead, man. So the Nuggets might actually show up a little bit more focused here because the Clippers play them so well. But I think this is just a tight series with 2 really competitive teams. And as I mentioned, I picked the Clippers on my bracket to win the series. Didn't bet the series price. I know some professionals like the Clippers to win the series. Oh, obviously, I didn't disagree with that, but I didn't bet it. 67% of tickets, 80% of the cash coming in on the side of the Clippers. So money is coming in on that side, expecting the Clippers to win. I expect them to win as well. But, again, I don't really want to lay them as a favorite price. If they were getting 2 points again here, I would consider it. But the way that they lost is kind of heartbreaking as well. Like, you have that big lead. You think you're going to beat the Nuggets, and then you wind up losing in overtime. That's pretty brutal. Total is at 219, juice to the under, 51% of tickets on the over, 68% of the cash on the under. So the cash is coming in on the under here. And the total was 224, I think, in the first game. So it's dropped a lot. The game went under, even though it went into overtime. The game still went under. Hold on. I think I messed that up. Let me see. I think I'm right about what the total is. Yeah, it was 224.5, and it went under despite going into overtime. So it was way under in regulation. So I think it was kind of an outlier result, man, is that the Nuggets actually didn't shoot particularly well, although I think the Clippers shot pretty well. But the way I'm going to do this is because, like I said, it's game 2. That number is adjusted 5 points off of kind of a weird result in game 1 where it went so far under that it still remained under in regulation. Now the books have adjusted it 5 points down. I'm actually going to go over in this game, even though it's against the cash. And you can actually find it as low as 217.5 right now. Anything in that range, 218, whatever, even upwards, up to 219 probably, I would still probably just say do it. So I'm going to go over. I know I don't play a whole lot of NBA totals. I get more involved in them in the playoffs because you can kind of really visualize it and think about it more with like the zigzag, I think this line has been way over adjusted to what happened in game one. So I will go over the total. And like I said, in a game two, it's a short turnaround time. We're talking about high elevation here. So you can see some you can see some tired defenses, man. Even though tired legs does kind of affect 3-point shooting as well. It's not like we're dealing with the Celtics here. We're dealing with teams that could score down low here, especially Denver. So I think over is the right move here. I think you're getting extra value on that number. So I'm going to go over in that game. Let's go to NHL. We have NHL playoffs here. We have, I believe, 4 games today. Montreal, Washington, game 1 is the first game up at 7 p.m. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. I mean, Washington is the better team, obviously, but they are being overpicked by the public as well in brackets, as I showed you. But Montreal just doesn't have the experience, man. I think Washington at least does have more experience, even though they haven't been this good for a while. But I would lean to Washington, but you're laying a bit of a price there. They're actually down from minus 190 to minus 186. 78% of tickets, 89% of the cash coming in on them. So I would probably lean to the Washington side there slightly still. The cash coming in on them, although they are public as well, like I said. I don't really have a whole lot else to say about that one. Washington's just the better team in this one. We get more interest when we get into zigzag situations like St. Louis and Winnipeg here. And in a lot of ways, St. Louis actually outplayed Winnipeg in game 1. Winnipeg won the game by 2, but the last one was an empty net, so it wasn't quite as ridiculous as it looked. This is a close game basically all the way. It was tied late in the third period. It was tied until the final minute and a half basically of the game. And then Winnipeg scored, and then they scored on the empty net right after that. Yes, they outshot St. Louis. I don't know how St. Louis had so few shots in the game, but St. Louis out-hit them by 20. And, I mean, a ton of penalty minutes in this game, by the way. So it was a crazy physical game. And St. Louis actually had the upper hand in physicality, and they won the face-off battle. And I believe if you look at what they did during the season, I think some of the other games I think were fairly similar to that. So St. Louis actually has kind of played Winnipeg decently, I think, this season. But just looking at that most recent game, I might be wrong about that. I think I went and I looked and I forget. But Winnipeg had the upper hand as far as the scores during the season. I think they went 2-1 against St. Louis. But I would probably lean to grabbing St. Louis as an underdog here just because it's kind of the zigzag. I mean, Winnipeg's laying a similar price to what they were laying in the first game. They're up from minus 185 to minus 190. 87% of tickets. I know 97% of the cash coming in on them. Looks like a lot of juice on the under in this one too, where the total's almost down to 5, which seems a little bit crazy to me because in a game 2, again, you might have like some tired defenses. So I don't know that I agree with that. I would lean to taking the money line with St. Louis, though, because they did play better than what the final score looks in game 1. So that's the way that I would look. Problem is Winnipeg is just so good at home. Even though when you take an underdog like this of this price, like plus 160 or whatever, you don't need them to win every game, obviously. You need them to win like 40-something% of the time. But the Jets are just so good at home. 37-4 at home. So I'm just going to stay off of it completely. Colorado, Dallas. I was on Colorado in game 1. They got the job done, but that was a less misleading score, even though it was a blowout win. Colorado did outplay them, and if you look at what they did during the season, I think Colorado kind of had the upper hand statistically against Dallas as well. I forget. I think maybe I didn't look at that either. I looked before game 1, but don't even listen to me about this. You can listen to me on the Edmonton-LA game, which I'll talk about in a minute. But Colorado did win game 1, so it looks like it would probably be time to look towards the zigzag here. It's Colorado. Again, I think they're just laying too much of a price on the road, but the public is coming in on Dallas. Basically, the public is thinking, oh, well, Dallas, they're like a really good team, and they're at home, and they just lost. Like, they're going to have to win this game, right? And getting them as a home underdog price, I think, is going to look very tempting to the public. So maybe they're not really the right side here. 58% of tickets, only 55% of the cash. So right now, they actually look like a public home underdog, which is very rare and something that you really don't want. So Colorado down from minus 155 to minus 141. I'm not going to go and do it here because I do think Dallas is going to be in a more desperate mode here, and because they lost so badly in game 1 that I expect adjustments from them in a better game this time. But the market read telling you that they're a public home underdog. I don't want to deal with it. The game that I will play, though, is I'm going to play the LA Kings minus 120. I just think the public is going to be on Edmonton more than they probably should be. Though it looks like the Kings are kind of public, 80% of tickets, 88% of the cash coming in on them, though. The line has moved up from minus 106 to minus 123. This is really the only game with a money line that's like really competitive, although I guess Colorado Dallas kind of is. But even this line has moved up a little bit. You can find it in the minus 120 range, which I think is okay. I'm going to play on the Kings because I do think that the public is going to see this and think, oh, these teams have similar records. We know Edmonton. I mean, they have Connor McDavid. They have the star power there. They can score a lot. The public has got to still like them, man, as they started kind of resurging towards the end of the season here. Everybody knows they were in the finals last year. But I like the LA Kings in this one, man. Edmonton, they finished the season all right, and I know they were on the Pacific Coast. They looked pretty good. I know their only loss recently was to this LA team. They actually lost 2 of their last 3 games to LA, one at home, 5-0. So they will have adjustments to make. So arguably they're going to adjust and play better this time. But the Kings, if you look at these results, the Kings won all 3 meetings, I think, against them this year. And the Kings actually were quite good against them in each game. Like, statistically, the Kings, I think, won all of those games. So I don't think they were really that misleading. Hold on, let me see. We're looking at, yeah. So we had a 4-3 overtime win for the Kings. We did have, actually, Edmonton won once at home, 1-0. And then the Kings beat them those last 2 times really recently. But the Kings have kind of just had their number, man. Again, yeah, I mean, Edmonton is going to have adjustments to make, but the Kings actually outplayed them, like, legitimately in those games. So I like the Kings here. And the Kings are actually really good at home. Like, we keep talking about how good Winnipeg is at home. Look at the Kings, 31-6-4. So they have 25 regulation losses on the season, and 19 of them are on the road. Only 6 of them at home. So the Kings have been really, really good at home. Oilers having to go back down there. It's going to be, I think, a crazy environment there. Kings have the upper hand goaltending-wise with Kemper there against whoever the hell Edmonton is going to go with. I don't know if it's going to be Skinner, Picard, whatever. I know Edmonton has the experience. I mean, the Kings don't really lack experience. I'm taking the Kings in this spot, man. Give me the Kings. I just think they're going to be a little bit overlooked there. That would be my opinion, and then we'll go to Major League Baseball before I get out of here. The first game up is in about an hour because the Red Sox always have an 11 a.m. game on Marathon Monday. After the marathon, it's kind of dwindled down. So the city of Boston is crazy on Marathon Monday, man. But this game, I mean, the Red Sox lost yesterday, which, of course, they did with Tanner Houck on the mound. He sucks. He should be out of a job, although he actually pitched well yesterday. And they still didn't win against a terrible White Sox team. And now we got Jonathan Cannon against Walker Buehler. I mean, the Red Sox are a huge favorite. Yeah, I mean, you got to give the edge to Buehler. I mean, he's the more experienced pitcher, but Cannon, kind of an unknown, man. He's a young pitcher that could turn into something good. We don't really know, so I'm going to stay away from this game. And Cannon hasn't been good this year against the Red Sox. Okay numbers, 273 average allowed, 545 OPS, and limited at-bats, only 11 at-bats. Walker Buehler actually has barely been seen by the White Sox because Buehler was in the National League. So actually, Buehler might have the extra edge because the White Sox basically have never seen him before. So that might be a little bit of an edge to Buehler, but obviously I'm not going to lay a price like this with the Red Sox. So I'm just going to stay away completely. Let's see. New York, Cleveland. I lean to Cleveland in this game, although they are returning home from a road trip. Took them to Baltimore and Pittsburgh. They are coming off a sweep of Pittsburgh, although the Yankees are coming off a game where they did beat Tampa Bay 3 out of 4 on the road. So they're traveling as well, and they're coming off a nice divisional series win. Clark Schmidt is pitching, and his numbers against Cleveland are not good. He had an okay start to the season, although his ERA doesn't look good, but his whip is all right at 1.06, ERA 4.76, not that good. He was okay last year. Cleveland hits him pretty well, though, in 39 at-bats. They got a 359 average, 931 OPS, so I wouldn't really have any difficulty fading Schmidt here. Gavin Williams still hasn't really turned it on for Cleveland here, 4.58 ERA, 1.32 whip. That's no good. Against the Yankees, he hasn't been great. 267 average, 1,020 OPS in 15 at-bats. I apologize for my voice, by the way, because I was at the Celtics game yesterday, so I lost my voice a little bit there. I hate it, man. I got to rest my voice. So I would probably give Williams the upper hand a little bit in the starting pitching matchup, just because he's still younger and I think has more ceiling, more leeway there where he could actually improve a bit more. Where I think we've basically seen Schmidt's ceiling already. I'm not going to play this game. If I was, I would probably look to Cleveland first 5 innings and play Cleveland just to win the first 5 innings, and they are a home underdog here. Because Cleveland used a lot of their bullpen yesterday. Their bullpen, decent. The Yankees' bullpen probably a little bit better, but I would not want to use Cleveland's used-up bullpen after the last couple of games. So I would go first 5 inning Cleveland here, but I'm going to stay off the game. Yankees up from -115 to -116. 82% of tickets on them, but 60% of the cash coming in on Cleveland. So the money is coming in on Cleveland. I will, however, play Miami as a home underdog, plus 108. So I kind of like this, how this situation sets up with Cincinnati down from -135 to -118. So the price has dropped on Cincinnati. They're public because, of course, they're playing against Miami. And Cincinnati just scored 24 runs yesterday, man. I mean, are you kidding me? Whenever a team scores 24 runs, my immediate reaction is, who are they playing next? You got to look to either fade them or take the under in the next game, because that's just ridiculous that they scored 24 runs against Baltimore. 76% of the cash coming in on Cincinnati. Nobody wants Miami. Nobody knows who Max Meyer is, even though he might be turning into something quite good. 51% of the cash on Miami, and I'm going to take the shot on Miami here. Even though Nick Lodolo is slated to pitch for Cincinnati, but with this line dropping, it's possible it's not going to be him because he's on paternity leave right now, so he's still questionable to even start this game. So I don't even know if he's actually going to start this game, and he has been good this season so far. Not really a strikeout guy. 14-2 strikeout walk ratio is good, though, and only 17 hits allowed and 23 at third. He's been good. Not walking anybody, basically, not giving up a lot of hits, but he did struggle in his last game against Seattle, so I don't know if that's indicating that he's on kind of a little bit of a bad trajectory after 2 shutout performances. Still at a 6-1 strikeout walk ratio, though, the 2 home runs in Great American Ballpark hurt him, so maybe that is kind of what we got going on there. So maybe we can give him a pass for that performance there, because the strikeout walk ratio is still there. Against Miami, he has been good. 13 at-bats worth. He's held him to a 154 average. 497 OPS, but I don't know if we're going to get Lodolo in this game. And if we don't, it's going to be a worse pitcher for Cincinnati, and they're going to have to spot start somebody, so that's fine for me. If it is Lodolo, I think he might be just a little bit distracted because he just had a baby. So that new baby thing, it is something that is a situation where you want to fade UFC fighters when they just had a baby. And I think the same thing can actually be said for a starting pitcher. Like, usually I don't think it's going to affect a team that much if it's like a team sport, like especially hockey, where the guy's just going to rejoin the team and maybe be like pumped up for it. But when it's an individual, that's a distraction for that individual. So I think it's a bad spot for Cincinnati. And again, they scored 24 runs yesterday, which looks insane. They look unbeatable right now after something like that. So you want to fade that team after they do that. Now they're traveling down to Miami. And the other thing about it is that Cincinnati, they used a decent amount of their bullpen in that game too. So Miami, I think, used a little bit less of theirs, even though Gillespie hurt me yesterday. Miami actually got the win over Philly. So, yeah, arguably they'd be in a letdown spot. But when you're Miami, you just want wins, man. I know they're returning home, but they only were on the road for 1 series. They stayed on the East Coast. So that's not really a big deal. I don't think a single series on the East Coast. They weren't away for that long. I think getting that win might actually help give them some confidence. I don't think they're going to be overconfident, even though that's a big win against Philadelphia. They still lost the series. And they, I think they're still going to want to win. I mean, they have a bad record right now, so I think they're going to still be focused here. And on the other side, they got Max Meyer pitching, man. And I know his numbers are actually not good against Cincinnati in his career, but I'm going to give him a pass. 12 at bats. I know it looks bad. 3 walks, no strikeouts, 500 average, 1350 OPS. But Meyer, he's a really young guy. So I think in some of these cases, you got to give him a little bit of a pass as he's kind of figuring stuff out. And now I think he is. He's got a 27-7 strikeout walk ratio this year and only 20 hits allowed in 24 innings so far. He's allowed 3 or fewer earned runs in every start. He's got at least 6 in the last 3 starts. Only didn't hit the 6-inning mark in his first start of the season. So they're letting him pitch deeper into games as well. I like all that. He's been off to a good start, man. 1.13 ERA, 2.63 ERA, 1.13 WHIP. I think he's turning into something good, man. And we knew he had good stuff. His scouting report was good. So I like Meyer in this game, man. I think Cincinnati is way more of a question here. So even though the matchup is kind of indicating Meyer doesn't have good numbers against Cincinnati, again, it's a very small sample size when he was like really, really green in Major League Baseball. So I think he's starting to find something and turn it on, man, and turn into a good pitcher. So I like that. I like the under as well, just because both teams have been involved in such high-scoring affairs recently. Miami was in a 7-5 game yesterday that cost me that under. And then Cincinnati obviously scored 24 runs. Miami, the prior game, was in a game that was like 11-10 against the Phillies. So kind of crazy stuff. So I lean to the under, but because we don't really know who's going to pitch for Cincinnati, and I think the uncertainty for Cincinnati is fine as far as the fact that we're playing Miami here. So we'll play Miami on the run line. And, you know, the market looks in agreement with that. And the next game I also am going to play on Detroit -130, even though I'm playing on a questionable starter here. Both of these starters are questionable, man. I'm going to fade San Diego in the classic spot where San Diego just played the ESPN night game, man, and they won against Houston. Nice win there. Now they're traveling again after playing the night game. I think it's a bad spot for San Diego. I liked them in last night's game. Dylan Cease pitched well. He won the game, or they won the game. He didn't get the win. Valdez pitched okay in the game as well. They turned it over to the bullpens. San Diego didn't use a ton of their bullpen, but they did use their best relievers, like the back end of their bullpen. So the back end of their bullpen isn't available tonight. And they're coming off that night game, whereas Detroit at least played in the afternoon. And they kind of suffered an embarrassing loss as they were about to sweep the Kansas City Royals, and they lost with Tarek Skubal on the mound. I mean, that's pretty bad for Detroit. And they're staying at home, so they're not even traveling. So I think they're going to bounce back from that. They have the travel advantage and the rest advantage here. And they used about, I think, the same amount of their bullpen. So I don't think that's as much of a concern either. Oh, let me see. Yeah, I mean, the bullpen situation's about even, I would say, between the two as far as the rest is concerned, even though San Diego probably has the better bullpen. But because they used their best relievers, I think that kind of evens it out a little bit. And then we got Randy Vasquez pitching, and his ERA looks good, right? 1.74, but hold on. His whip is 1.35, and he has more walks than strikeouts. He has 14 walks and only 8 strikeouts in 20 2/3 innings. I mean, that's ridiculous. Even though he hasn't been hittable, 14 hits allowed, that's fine. No home runs allowed, that's pretty good, but his wildness has been insane. I mean, that's a major red flag. When you have more walks than strikeouts, obviously his ERA should be way higher than this. If his whip is 1.35, his stats sucked last year too. I mean, I don't think Vasquez is that good, man. So I think he's very overrated right now, possibly overvalued in the marketplace. And he's up against Detroit here. Let's see. Against Detroit, he only has 4 at-bats worth, so I know it's a very small sample size, but he's allowed a home run to Torkelson, 500 batting average, and 1,917 OPS with 2 walks in there as well, with 1 strikeout. So the walks have been bad as well. So even though Detroit hasn't really seen a whole lot of him, I think Vasquez is completely untrustworthy. On the other side, Keter Montero's pitching. He's a little bit younger, and his ERA looks terrible, right? 9, 1.8 whip. Yeah, it's not good. He had a bad outing against Milwaukee, but that was on the road. It was his first start of the season. Milwaukee can hit. He gave up 3 home runs. So he somehow actually still limited the damage to 5 earned runs. He gave up 8 hits, but he wasn't putting that many men on base. He had an 8-to-1 strikeout walk ratio. So that tells me his command was actually not that bad in this game. He was fooling hitters, not walking them. So that's actually good. So I think his stats actually look a lot better than Vasquez's to me. I think his ERA is misleadingly high. And he's so young that even though he wasn't very good last year, that was his first season in the majors. Only pitched like about a half season as a starter. He could be improving, man. So I think we might see some improvement out of him. He's in the rotation for a reason. And I know his numbers aren't good against San Diego. 14 at bats worth, 357 average, 900 OPS. But I still think he's better than Vasquez. And I think he might have a higher ceiling than Vasquez does. So I prefer Montero. And I think the situation sets up for it where we're fading a San Diego team in that dreaded spot off of the win in the ESPN night game. Detroit up from -105 to -135 now, 77% of the cash on them, 61% of tickets on San Diego. And obviously San Diego is going to be public because the other thing about this is look at their records, man. San Diego's 16-6 and Detroit is 13-9. So it's like the public's going to look at that and think, well, I'm getting the better record. The team with the better record is an underdog, so obviously I have to do that, right? Well, Detroit's 8-2 at home, man. Detroit's been really good at home. San Diego's been really good at home, too. They're not as good on the road. They're 12-1 at home, and they're 4-5 on the road. So that's a big home-road dichotomy there. And for Detroit as well, Detroit, I guess, is 4-7 on the road, or 5-7, I guess, excuse me. But they're 8-2 at home, so some big home road disparities there for both teams. So I think that helps the Detroit play as well. We will take Detroit. The market seems to agree with it. We got Philadelphia and the Mets. This is a big series. Aaron Nola against Tyler McGill. The thing about this game is that Philadelphia did lose to Miami, and now they get out of home and go on the road after an embarrassing loss to Miami. So that's good that Philadelphia gets to get out of home after a bad loss. But the Mets are going to be gunning for them, man. I mean, this is going to be a good game where both teams are going to show up. It's going to be a hard-fought series. Nola, shockingly, is actually off to a terrible start. 6.65 ERA, 1.66 whip, 0-4 to start the season, which I do think is a little bit misleading, and I think he will bounce back from this. 25-9 strikeout walk ratio is pretty good, but he's allowed too many hits. Even that walk number is too high. I do expect him to get better. I mean, his one really bad start was against the Giants, and they've been pretty good this season so far. But I don't know if he's going to improve that much in this specific start because the Mets have seen him 274 at bats worth, and they've done well against him. 270 average, pretty good. I mean, decent. 833 OPS is fairly good. So Nola, very familiar to the Mets hitters, and the Mets have done well against him. So I don't know that Nola is actually going to bounce back in this one. Tyler McGill, he's a guy that I just think he continues to be a little bit overrated as his whip always seems higher than his ERA is. Like his whip seems to always indicate that his ERA should be higher than it is what I mean to say. 1.34 whip this year, only a 1.4 ERA is insane, and you know that's going to go up. But he is a tall guy. He's a hard thrower, and in this game, he might actually do fairly well. He's got a 20-7 strikeout walk ratio, which is okay, but again, a little bit wild this year. So the wildness is why his whip is so high. But against Philly, he's been good. Maybe some of that was because Philly hadn't seen him before, but now they've faced him 86 at bats worth, and they only have a 198 average off him, 545 OPS. So I think McGill actually has the starting pitching edge in this game against Nola. Mets actually are taking the money up from -115 to -120. I agree with that move. I would lean to the Mets. 64% of tickets, 82% of the cash coming in on them. I won't quite play it because I do think Philadelphia is in a pretty good spot coming off that ugly loss to Miami. Mets are coming off a satisfying sweep. I mean, every sweep is satisfying. They satisfied themselves, man, by beating the Cardinals. They swept a Cardinals team that was playing pretty well. So, speaking of the Cardinals, they're coming off a sweep, so it looks like a decent spot for the Cardinals against Atlanta, but Atlanta is staying at home, but Atlanta is coming off a sweep themselves against Minnesota. So they're coming off, I mean, again, any sweep is satisfying. So Atlanta probably feeling pretty good about themselves right now, and St. Louis probably happy to just leave that series and go do something else after they got swept in New York, and now they get to go down to Atlanta and try to fix some things. And it looks bad for them because they have to face Schwellenbach, who's been excellent this year. He's been an ace. I mean, there's no doubt about that, but he is trending a little bit in the wrong direction as he had a bad start at Toronto, gave up 6 earned runs, is by far his worst start of the season. Although his overall numbers are still really good. 22-5 strikeout walk ratio, 16 hits allowed, 24 2/3 innings, 2.55 ERA, 2.55, 0.85 whip. But against St. Louis, he actually has not been good, surprisingly. So St. Louis, I guess, even though it was the first time seeing him, he now has 30 at-bats worth against him, and he's allowed a 400 average to them and 1,033 OPS, despite not walking any of them, which is crazy. So St. Louis has actually hit him pretty well, so they're one team that might actually have a little bit of an edge against Schwellenbach, even though he is a really good pitcher. Eric Fedde, on the other hand, pitching well to start the season, 3.43 ERA, 1.14 whip. But he has more walks than strikeouts, which is a bit alarming, as I say. That's a red flag. That's not good. So even though he's only allowed 1 earned run across his last 2 starts, you got to watch it, man, with those walks, because those walks are terrible. One of them was actually a no-hit performance against Pittsburgh, but he still walked 4 guys. He's only allowed 13 hits, so he's been really hard to hit. But he's got to get his wildness under control. But against Atlanta, he has been good in his career. 68 at-bats. He hasn't. Never mind. I thought he was good against them. He's not. My apologies. He's actually quite bad against them. Sorry. 68 at-bats worth 426 average allowed to them and 1,157 OPS. So there's no way that I could play St. Louis with Fedde being that bad against Atlanta in a pretty significant sample size. Atlanta's getting the public ticket percentage, 71%, 67% of the cash, but they moved up from minus 175 to minus 185. But they are public here. I think the way that I would lean in this game is to the over, because even though you're getting 2 pitchers that have really good ERAs this year, I think they're both at disadvantages here because Fedde doesn't do well against the Braves. Schwellenbach has not done well against the Cardinals so far. Total up from 8 juice to the under to 8.5 juice to the over. So a pretty significant move to the over. 62% to take a 68% of the cash coming in on the over. I agree with it. I mean, St. Louis was hitting well to start the season, even though they're not right now. But they may return to that a little bit at least. And Atlanta, I mean, their offense is fairly talented, so you got to think they're going to turn it on at some point. Even with Profar being suspended. Then we got Houston coming off the night game. So I think Houston's in a bad spot as well as they played in the ESPN night game. They lost the game late to the Padres, and they're staying at home so they don't have to travel. So maybe a little bit less of a disadvantage there. But Toronto's coming off 2 embarrassing losses at home to Seattle. So I think it's actually good that they get to travel out of there. As I always say, if things aren't going well at home, or even if they are, either way, starting a road trip is usually a positive spot because you either get to try to break that losing momentum and just forget about it, or you get to carry some momentum out on the road with you. So I think the spot is actually better for Toronto. And again, Houston played last night in a tough game, so they're a little bit less rested. Kevin Gausman pitching. He's off to a good start for the Blue Jays this season after last season he struggled for a while. He's still a pretty good pitcher, though, I think. He hasn't lost it yet. He's not that old, and he's off to a good start. 20-3 strikeout walk ratio, only 15 hits allowed, and 25 1/3. If it wasn't for the 4 home runs allowed, his numbers would be even better. He's got a 2.49 ERA and 0.71 whip, though, so you can't even ask for much better than that. And against Houston, he has totally dominated them. In 81 at-bats, 43-3 strikeout walk ratio. Although he has allowed 4 home runs, that's the only real concern here because he's held them to a 173 average and 597 OPS. So Gausman has really done well against Houston. Hunter Brown is going for Houston, and he is really starting to find himself, man. 22-5 strikeout walk ratio, only 15 hits allowed in 24 1/3. He's a young guy that they have who really struggled to start his career, but he's starting to turn it on. Pitched really well, and he's had his last 3 starts all on the road. Granted, one of them was at Seattle, which is a very pitcher-friendly park, but he's off of 2 straight shutout performances. Pretty good stuff, although against, who are they playing against again? I forget. Who did I just talk about? Who's the pitcher? Oh, Toronto, yeah. Against Toronto, though, Mediocre numbers in 32 at bats. He's held him to 250 average, which is pretty good. 741 OPS, getting a little bit into the high range. He's allowed a couple of home runs there. So I think you probably give Gausman a little bit of the edge there, although Hunter Brown is definitely improving. So some of those numbers, maybe you don't want to look at some of those numbers just because it was early in his career. I lean to Toronto, but the cash percentage is actually on Houston. 70% of tickets, 90% of the cash coming in on them. Minus 136 down to minus 132 on Houston. So the market move, the money line move has gone down a little bit on Houston, but they are getting the cash. But I don't agree with the cash percentage there. I would agree with fading Houston in this game. Gausman, his numbers are just so dominant against Houston, and the spot is better for Toronto. I also do agree with the under. And the total has gone down from 7.5 to 7.5 juice to the under. So you're looking at maybe having to get a 7, which, as I say, is a key number in baseball totals. 7, 9, and 11, that's how you break a tie. So those are the key numbers. 71% of tickets, 91% of the cash on the under. I do agree with the under. I think Hunter Brown, his numbers are okay against Toronto, and I think he's continuing to get better. And Gausman, of course, dominates Houston. So I do agree with the under. And then I agree with Milwaukee against San Francisco to finish this off. San Francisco is returning home from a really long road trip. They went out to the Yankees, Philadelphia, and then they had to go down to Anaheim. So they did return to the Pacific time zone, so they at least are adjusted to the time zone again. But now they're returning home. And again, I always say when a team is off for that long, they get back home. They have to get back to family life. So it becomes a distraction. There's a lot going on. San Francisco's been playing pretty well to start the season, and maybe they'll overlook the Brewers a little bit, who haven't been playing as well. The Brewers maybe in a better spot here as they just beat the A's, even though they crushed them 14-1, which is satisfying. But, I mean, the A's suck, obviously, so I don't think you're going to get overconfident off of that. The Brewers have nice momentum, I think, carrying that out on the road. So I like the Brewers. The problem is you're going to have to bet on Quinn Priester. I mean, I don't want to do it, man. I know he's got a .9 ERA this year. So that's a good ERA, obviously. But a 1.2 whip indicates his ERA should be way, way higher than that. Probably closer to 4. So he's getting lucky. I mean, he's walked 5 guys and only struck out 8 in 2 starts. I don't know what you can take away from that, although he actually pitched fairly well in Coors Field, which is ridiculous. And then he followed that up with a 1-hit performance against Detroit. So is he actually finding something? Should the Red Sox have not gotten rid of him? I don't know, man. But it's possible he'll do okay here. Against San Francisco, his numbers are actually good in 20 at-bats. He's held to a 150 average and 340 OPS. So maybe Priester, not a bad way to look here. Robbie Ray, on the other hand, I told you I don't trust him. He's a lot older than Priester, and he's never been that good. So it's like, how did he do what he did last year? 1.14 whip, even though despite having a good whip, his ERA sucked. But he only had 7 starts and only 7 appearances that year. And for the last 2 years, he only had 8 total appearances, which is ridiculous. So I don't even know if he's really that good. I mean, his career whip 1.3, that's not good. Indicates that his career 3.99 ERA should probably be higher than it is. And he's starting to not pitch well this year, even though he's 3-0. He's got a 4.19 ERA, 1.55 whip. He's putting so many men on base. That ERA should be higher than that. He's got 15 walks and 21 strikeouts. I mean, that is pretty bad. Only 15 hits allowed is good, and 19 to third. Strikeout rate is good, but the walks are insane. He's just been way too wild. Granted, he did have to pitch in Great American Ballpark. He had to pitch in the Bronx against the Yankees and on the road at Philadelphia. So maybe he's not quite as bad as those numbers would indicate because he's faced some really difficult opponents. Now he's got Milwaukee, and Milwaukee doesn't do well against him. 19 at-bats, and the other guys haven't even seen him. Only 3 guys have seen him. He's held to a 105 average and 296 OPS. So I'll just stay away from this one, even though the spot does say that Milwaukee is the way you want to look here. But then you're also banking on Milwaukee's bullpen, and their bullpen has been a problem this year. So I just don't think I can do it, man. So that's going to do it. I'll stay away from it. My plays tonight are the over 217.5, or get whatever the best number you can is in Clippers and Nuggets. LA Kings money line in hockey. So that over is in the NBA playoffs. LA Kings in the hockey playoffs. Baseball, we got being selective here. Miami Marlins plus 108 on the money line as a money line underdog at home. Detroit as a home favorite, minus 130. Tigers, that's going to do it for me. And I forgot to mention yesterday, 3-2. So I am on a nice little win streak of 3 days in a row here, even though 2 of my first 3 games lost, as I lost on the under in the Philly game, as I mentioned, as Gillespie did not hold up his end of the bargain. And it was, the game still could have gone under. I think it was like what was the score? Like 5-1 going into the 7th or something. So it was possible it was still going to go under that total. And it didn't happen. Or maybe it was 5-1 or 5-2, whatever it was. I had under 8.5. The game landed 12, but there were multiple runs scored late in like the 8th inning, 9th inning, whatever. I think it actually went extra innings too. Did it? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. So that sucked. And then I lost by 1 run on the Pittsburgh Pirates. So I apologize for those. That was a close game. And although Pittsburgh, maybe I deserved to lose that one because they were down 3 in the 9th inning, but they, of course, had to tease me. And they tied it with a 3-run 9th inning and then lost anyway in extra innings. Even though they had the momentum at that point, that just sucks. Hate the runner on second rule. Thought Pittsburgh was going to get it done for me. But then all 3 of my other plays wound up being fine and actually pretty easy wins. I won on Toronto Maple Leafs, won easy. Cleveland Cavs won fairly easily and covered that one. And then we had, what was the other game that I had? I had 1 baseball win, I think. I wish I remembered what it even was. It was, I can look at the baseball schedule from yesterday real quick. Let me see. What was the win, man? It was the first 5 inning under in the Tampa Bay Yankees game. I mean, that's probably going to go under if Tampa doesn't even score at all in the game. So that went under as well. So that's going to do it for me, man. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter, patreon.com/Tower Gang to support the most offensive, funny podcast that has ever existed. Peace out for now, baby. Happy Monday.